Welcome back to UNX Fast Forward, your daily dose of everything ninja. I'm Ethan Swanson.
And I'm Chris Ganji, and we just finished up in the South region at Austin Ninjas for our second open qualifier. And the hardest course that we've seen here at UNX in an open qualifier, brutal.
Absolutely brutal. And just as a reminder, that's a qualifier to get to our second major event. 2 of 3 major events. After the third major event, we're going to find our top 8 men, top 8 women from our season standings to get to the finals in February.
Yeah, and so out of Austin, now we have 3 more men and 3 more women who have punched their ticket to the second major here on December 14th. And on the women's side, first up in third place was Ashley McConville.
Yeah, and Ashley McConville, I feel like we've just been waiting for her to qualify. She's just at UNA finals, took first place. She's such a proven athlete. She's amazing, and now she's punched her ticket. In third place, just barely squeaking in, but I'm excited to see her at the major event.
Yeah, she barely squeaked in, and she squeaked in on time. But at the same time, like we said, we're waiting for her to qualify. But I think we're also waiting to see her really showcase her skills because, again, it was a very tricky balance obstacle that kind of took her out.
Right, which is really tough. I know her upper body strength and skill is so far above a lot of competitors, but we gotta see it.
I know, and I can't wait to see it, and hopefully it'll be on full display at the major. But then in second place, Olivia Colasano.
Right, she's currently sitting in 5th place in our season standings. This is really meaningful. Her going back to the major, giving her the opportunity to earn more points for the season. That's really powerful because, like we said, at the end of the third major, it's about who has the most points for the season.
Yeah, our top 3 athletes from the major are coming back, and so for Olivia sitting in 5th place to punch her ticket back, that's going to be huge for her to try to get to the championship.
Right, and then first place goes to Isabella Wakeham, the only athlete on the women's side to beat retirement home, and just fell on reverse dunk right after that. But she was actually my pick to take it all, and because I seen her at UNA World Finals, she took 2nd place. She's younger athlete, not as proven as some of the elite women's competitors who've been on American Ninja Warrior a ton, but she showed taking first place that she deserves to be.
Yeah, absolutely. She proved herself here, and the only woman competitor to get through the retirement home. It was extremely impressive performance. But I think if I'm looking at her, I think there's a lot that we have not seen. I don't think this course, really showcased her full abilities.
Well, not only did she make it further into the course, but even if she had failed retirement home, she got there faster than any other women's athlete. So even before she beat retirement home, she's already sitting in 1st place. So she's consistently the best out of the women's field of athletes at Austin Ninjas.
Yeah, a great performance, and so we'll see those 3 here at the major on the women's side.
Right, and looking at the men's results, taking 3rd place, Christian Yust. He is one of our younger athletes. He's 15 years old, making his way to the major event, and we keep seeing it, these youth athletes performing really well. Christian, no different.
And the thing I loved about Christian's run was he attacked this course. The first 3 obstacles he jumped right into, moved at a really quick pace, and then he moved a little bit quick on the retirement home, and there were a couple close calls where I was holding my breath, but he made it through and he had a blazing fast time.
He was really aggressive, and we saw that aggressiveness on his humongous fall on Newton's cradle. But that was he's going for it. And I think he caught almost at his hips and just got ripped out.
Yeah, probably one of the best falls that we've had at Austin Ninjas, but just a really strong performance from a younger competitor. And then speaking of younger competitors, 16 years old, Nathan Haney taking 2nd place. He's punching his ticket to the major.
Right, and we got to think about isolation at the major event. I think, we saw him. He was the first athlete to really break through the 5th obstacle, reverse dunk, and then he just kept going.
Yeah.
So he was the first one to tackle the hook swing. He was the first one to tackle slider nine, first one to tackle Newton's cradle, and he beat all those things.
Yeah, and he beat them, but he made them look good, and he looked composed the whole time. He didn't panic. He looked really strong.
Yeah, and that brings us to our first place, looking stronger than anybody out there, Dave Kavanaugh. That's not as big of a surprise. He's so proven, and especially with his walk-on experience, having to run early, having to run even first in some cases on American Ninja Warrior, I think plays to his advantage big time when it comes to running courses that people aren't getting through or running in isolation.
Yeah, I think isolation definitely favors an athlete like Dave. I think he's really creative when he runs courses, and people won't be able to copy that because they won't be able to see him run. And so isolation, I'm really looking forward to seeing Dave compete. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and this course, like we said, was so tough. We had no finishers, and there's a 4:15 minute time limit. it was brutal. It was taking out athletes left and right. And, some of the athletes had close calls, almost getting into the qualifying spots. First of which, Jody Avila taking 4th place, falling on Newton's cradle, but just losing out on time to Christian.
Yeah, and such a tough fall for Jody. You could see him on the trapeze bar, and when he went to swing to that barrel, you could see his feet hit first, and it knocked the barrel away. He couldn't get his hands on, and he was just on the pads.
Yeah, we saw a couple other saves from him, too. A big one being on reverse dunk, trying to dismount and getting pulled back and regaining composure and then getting off it.
Yeah, I mean, you could see he was fully stretched out, had his hands still on the cane, and his feet were on the platform. A benefit to being a taller competitor there.
Yeah, and then again on slide or die, catching really low, getting caught up on the skateboard, but being able to swing through and save the obstacle.
But then on the women's side, we got to talk about Molly Hayward. Had just such good pacing through the first 3 obstacles, but she was 1 second off of Ashton McConville's time.
1 second. That's a this. And then you go. That's literally a breath. That's a hand placement. That's a quarter of a swing. And that's what made the difference between qualifying and not qualifying for the second major event.
Yeah, which just shows how competitive it was on the women's side.
Right, and then another super elite competitor, Thomas Stillings, just missing out on qualifying. He took 5th place again. He took 5th place at Traverse Fitness in the first round. He took 5th place here, and he said to me afterwards, what do I got to do to not take 5th place? I just got to get a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas definitely somebody that you always look at as somebody who's going to, potential to podium, but just couldn't figure out the slider die.
Yeah, and got caught up right at the top, just went right down, and you get caught up that early, there's no chance of saving it. That's too big of a jump.
Yeah, but he'll compete again, I would assume.
I'm sure he will, and he's one of the athletes. I expect him to get to the major. He's an elite athlete, and I feel like he belongs at the major event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then another close call was China Hart, who failed on the retirement home, got to that last bump, but could not get over.
Yeah, she was so close. Like we said, we only had Isabella was the only woman to beat retirement home, but China got really close. She was right at the dismount. She ended up taking 6th place, but if she had beaten that, she would have ended up in 2nd place and would have been punching her ticket to the major event.
Yeah, really, really close there. But such a tricky obstacle. I mean, we saw on the men and women's side, it was just brutal out there.
Right. I mean, the course was so difficult. Nick Forney, James McGrath really just crushing souls out there. And, it gave us a lot of big, shocking falls. First of which we want to bring up is Caden Lebsack.
Caden Lebsack, probably the most shocking fall just because of where it happened. And I'm watching his run and just did not expect his hand to slip on the uneven bridges.
Right, it wasn't even one of the big transfers. It was just moving across that first uneven bridge and just popped right out. But that's how Ninja goes. If you don't have the right precision on where your hand placement is, even on something that's simple for somebody like Caden, that's it. It's over. And it was such a surprise because he missed out and qualified by 1 spot at center court, and he was my pick to take top 3, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, but that is Ninja. I mean, it happens to every single athlete out there. There's always a little mistake. You can always point back to a competition that you say, like, wow, I made just a really silly small mistake, and that's the end of your run.
Right, another mistake took out another competitor, Najee Richardson, who we both projected to get back to the major event. But, part of the obstacle on reverse dunk is dismounting with the cane, and Najee just slipped his mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was getting through the retirement home was such a big accomplishment, and then just not exactly remembering that you had to bring the cane with you. There's a cane in front of you, so it's just a little confusing, but just didn't remember the rule there.
Yeah, I hope we see him again. He's talking about going to another qualifier for the second major. He's sitting in a good spot in our season standings, and he, just like Olivia, wants to get back and earn more points. I hope he does.
Yeah, I hope so. I think he would be awesome to see. But then Caitlin Bergstrom, another kind of shocking fall.
Very shocking fall.
Very shocking.
Similar to Caden, honestly, is she was actually further on that obstacle, just looking to complete it, and boop, just hand missed it. And I think it's the nature of those tilted bridges is that when you correct it, if you move and you lift your hand, you move your hand away, it's going to go tilt again. And I think it just wasn't where she expected it to be when she went to put her hand back.
Yeah, I mean, just making the catches is hard enough, but then remembering that once you take your hands off, it's going to kind of correct itself. And so, yeah, I mean, I was definitely surprised that she went out there. Definitely, she was in my top 3.
Yeah, and the front half of the course was so difficult. Another competitor that was taken out by the reverse dunk, Tyler Gillette. And honestly, when he got to retirement home, I was like, okay, home free. Tyler's so good. he's going to be able to make it through here, and just got caught. Couldn't dismount with the cane, and it kind of pulled him back and shorted the dismount. As a really tough fall to watch.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how difficult the reverse dunk was in so many aspects. I mean, making the reverse 180 catch was hard enough, but then having to make the dismount and stick the landing on a tiny landing platform and be so controlled, but also bringing the cane with you. Like, there's so much going on in that obstacle.
Yeah, a lot going on, a lot to process in a short amount of time, and unfortunately for Tyler, that was the end of his run.
Yeah, and then Karsten Williams, another shocking fall, somebody I definitely expected to get far into this course.
Stage 3 athlete, you know, he got past the cliffhanger. He did amazing. This was his best year ever on American Tour this past season, and went out on the retirement home.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at the retirement home and say that that's a shocking fall because we saw so many elite athletes struggle with that obstacle. But it's just, Karsten definitely somebody that you're looking at as like, okay, you know, I think he's going to get really far, and then all of a sudden, the run's over.
Yeah, that's definitely brilliant. I mean, that was the nature of the first half of this course, just eating up athletes. And another athlete taken out, Matthew Day, on the reverse dunk, and it speaks to how difficult that dismount is. You see athletes getting caught, getting stuck, having to make saves, undershooting the dismount, but then also, in Matthew's case, overshooting the dismount with the cane more than enough and completed reverse dunk, but then failed the next obstacle because he didn't stay on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, when you're swinging and the cane is on that bar, there's a lot of pressure coming down on the bar to hold the cane in, so you have to make a big, powerful move to pick that cane up, and you also have to stick a tiny dismount. It's a very controlled move.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one for sure. I mean, there's so many tough ones. That's the thing about this course and this level of athlete. We had 17 American Ninja Warriors, a really difficult course, the hardest we've had yet, and there's so much action to unpack that, you know, we're going to look at more of it tomorrow. Is we're going to take a closer look at our Ninja Killers, which I think to nobody's surprise is retirement home and reverse dunk. We're going to take a look at stats. We're going to take a look at big time moments, big saves, stuff like that tomorrow on UNX Fast Forward. But until then, I'm Ethan Swanson.
And I'm Chris Ganji. We'll see you guys tomorrow.